In the darkest hours of World War II, when the Axis powers seemed unstoppable and entire continents trembled under the weight of tyranny, there existed a shadowy figure whose work in silence changed the very course of history. While armies clashed and generals strategized on battlefields, this individual moved unseen, infiltrating enemy lines, gathering intelligence that would ultimately shift the balance of power. This is the story of a spy whose courage, cunning, and audacity altered the fate of millions, though few outside secret intelligence circles ever knew his name. He was not a soldier, nor a politician, nor a public figure. His battlefield was a web of deception, danger, and code. Every message he transmitted, every document he photographed, every conversation he eavesdropped upon carried the potential to save or doom thousands of lives. The stakes were immense, for the war was not merely about territory. It was about the survival of nations, the freedom of people, and the very idea of human dignity against the machinery of oppression. Yet he worked in silence, blending into crowds, passing unnoticed in plain sight, fully aware that a single mistake could cost him his life. His journey into espionage began long before the outbreak of the global conflict. Born into a world already teetering on political and social upheaval, he learned early the value of observation and the subtle art of persuasion. Languages became his weapons, charm his shield, and an uncanny ability to read people his secret armor. By the time the storm of war erupted across Europe, he had honed these skills to a razor's edge, ready to serve a cause far greater than himself. He understood with stark clarity that information was the ultimate weapon, and that knowledge held more power than tanks, planes, or artillery. The war would not be won solely on the battlefield, but in the minds of those who could see beyond the chaos, who could act in the shadows, unseen yet decisive. The spy's most consequential mission came at a time when the Allies were struggling to anticipate German maneuvers. Operation plans were constantly changing, intelligence was fragmented, and every misstep carried catastrophic consequences. It was during this period that he undertook the dangerous task of infiltrating the inner circles of the enemy. Risking detection at every turn, he cultivated relationships with individuals who held positions of influence, those who could be persuaded, manipulated, or observed. With meticulous care, he built a network of information channels, each thread of intelligence carefully woven into a tapestry that, if interpreted correctly, would reveal the enemy's intentions in a way no one else could see. Among the countless contributions he made, perhaps the most pivotal was his role in revealing the timing and scale of a major German offensive. Allied commanders were aware that an attack was imminent, but details were scarce, and the risk of acting on false information was high. This spy's diligence in gathering precise data, maps, troop movements, supply lines, and logistical plans provided the clarity that Allied leaders desperately needed. It was his ability to decode subtle patterns, to anticipate enemy behavior, and to deliver this information safely that allowed the Allies to prepare strategically, reposition forces, and fortify defenses. The difference between catastrophe and victory, in this instance, rested largely on his shoulders, though the world would never see him celebrated on the front pages or in victory parades. What made him extraordinary was not merely his skill or bravery, but the consistency of his commitment. Every operation, every reconnaissance, every coded message was approached with meticulous discipline. He understood the human element in warfare, the fears, ambitions, and weaknesses of those around him, and used it to guide his decisions. Patience was as vital as courage. Timing was more critical than strength. There were moments when a slip of the tongue, a misread expression, or an intercepted letter could have spelled disaster. Yet he navigated these hazards with an almost instinctual sense of precision, understanding that the smallest detail could alter the outcome of entire campaigns. His work was also marked by ingenuity. Conventional methods of espionage were insufficient for the scale of the task. He pioneered techniques for secret communication, creating invisible channels through which vital information flowed undetected. He learned to move through hostile territories with ease, disguising his identity, adapting to circumstances, and exploiting assumptions that others took for granted. The spy understood that war was not just a series of battles, but a complex system of information, perception, and reaction. By manipulating what the enemy believed and controlling what his own side knew, he shaped outcomes in ways that pure force never could. The impact of his intelligence was far-reaching. Military historians later identified several key turning points in the war, where information he provided enabled decisive Allied actions. Entire divisions were rerouted, ambushes avoided, and strategies recalibrated because of the intelligence he risked everything to obtain. His actions not only saved countless lives, but accelerated the collapse of Axis advances, shortening the war in ways that remain difficult to quantify. Without his intervention, critical campaigns might have faltered, and the cost in human suffering could have been exponentially greater. Yet despite the enormity of his contribution, he remained invisible to history for decades. Unlike generals whose names are etched in stone, or politicians celebrated in speeches, he never sought recognition. His work required secrecy. Fame would have been a liability, potentially exposing him and compromising future missions. And so, while the world recovered, rebuilt, and commemorated the visible heroes of the war, he quietly continued his work in intelligence, observing, analyzing, and guiding events from behind a veil of anonymity. The gratitude of nations remained largely unspoken, confined to private reports, classified commendations, and the silent acknowledgement of those who understood the magnitude of his deeds. In the years after the war, his life remained emblematic of the paradox of espionage. Immense influence paired with profound invisibility. He witnessed the rebuilding of Europe, the emergence of new political orders, and the dawning of a new era, knowing that his unseen hand had helped shape it. Scholars and historians would eventually piece together fragments of his missions, recognizing the subtle yet decisive ways in which he had influenced outcomes. By then, he had long retired from active work, leaving behind a legacy of courage, intellect, and selflessness that would inspire future generations of operatives and leaders alike. The spy who altered the course of WWII exemplifies the truth that history is not solely made on battlefields or in government halls. It is also shaped in shadows, in whispered secrets, and in the careful, courageous acts of individuals who operate where no one else can. His story is a testament to the profound impact of intelligence, strategy, and human ingenuity, reminding us that one person's actions, though invisible at the time, can ripple across continents, change destinies, and save millions of lives. Though his name remains largely unknown to the general public, the outcomes he secured endure, woven into the very fabric of the modern world. Every campaign won, every life spared, every tyrant thwarted, owes a debt to his quiet, unwavering dedication. History may have forgotten him in the headlines, but the world itself carries the proof of his extraordinary life. Thank you for watching this story here on Conflistory. Every view, every like, and every share helps us continue uncovering the hidden histories, the unsung heroes, and the incredible stories that shaped our world. Your support ensures these stories are remembered, honored, and passed on to future generations.